Hello, my name is Matthew Hart, and welcome to my presentation on Umbraco Cloud Water Performance, where we look at the performance of cloud using K6. So, our contestants for this stress test will be looking at Umbraco 8, all three tiers with Paul Seal's Clean Starter Kit installed, and we'll be pitting it against Umbraco 9 with all three tiers again, and the Clean Starter Kit by Paul Seal installed. So let's have a look at K6 and how we've configured it. It's similar to the previous test we did during our Umbraco Together talk. We're basically scaling so we're basically having an hour test, and for the first 5 minutes we scale to 100 users. Then the next 10 minutes we scale to 200 users. Then the next 15 minutes we scale to 500 users, and then the next 15 minutes after that we scale to 1,000, where we reach our peak. And then for the last 15 minutes we ramp down to 0 at finishing our test. With K6 we'll be basically querying these pages, so we'll be looking at the about page, the blog page, the contact page, the search, and the various blog pages in Paul's starter kit. So what was our findings? Before I sort of get through the graph, let's sort of go through the key and that you get familiar with what the different lines mean. So at the bottom there will be like a red sort of orangey line, which is the failed request rate, and you can probably see at the beginning there's the little bump of 8 request failures, I believe, and then the next one after that is the response time. So as we go across, the response time will start to increase, as seen by this blue line here. The grey line is our virtual users, as explained before, with the basically scaling up to 100, then to 500, then to 1,000 up here, and then ramping down again. And then our last one is the request rate, so how many requests K6 was able to make over the duration of the test. So now that you're sort of know how the graph is structured, let's have a look at the V8 starter and how it performed. So as the sort of test began, we had a very low response time, but soon it started to sort of scale with the users as the users increased, until we reached to the peak of our test, where we also sort of reached a peak response time, sort of reaching about a 2-second response time as we hit 1,000 users. Now let's have a look at Umbraco 9 starter. So with Umbraco 9, you can see it's a lot more different, where the response time is sort of staying very, very stable, and it eventually just sort of creeps up a little bit, and then a little spike here, but then it quickly recovers again as we get close to those 1,000 users, and then quickly just sort of settles back down. But still, from the start to the finish, it's still quite sort of the same. So if we sort of look at the two sites together in this table I have here, we can see that Umbraco 9 gets 1.5 times more requests in, 4 times fewer HTTP failures, and our peak response time was 2.5 times more with Umbraco V9, and the average response time was 8 times faster with V9 compared to V8 in the starter plan. Now let's have a look at standard. So with V8 standard, again we can sort of see how the response time is scaling with the virtual users as we scale up with K6, and as we sort of scale down again, the sort of response time also goes down along with it. And if we have a look at V9, again sort of the same sort of structure here, where the response time sort of stays very, very stable throughout the duration of the test, and we only have like one big spike when we hit to 1,000 virtual users, and it just quickly goes back down again and sort of maintains that same level as the beginning. So if we have a look at the sort of results in the table again, we sort of get the same sort of differences as the previous test, although in V9 we didn't get any errors at all. So let's have a look now at V8 Professional. So in the Professional tier, we had, during this test, it was quite sort of a crazy roller coaster. So at the beginning we sort of had very, very low response times, and it sort of just started to sort of become kind of unstable, and we had like a huge spike here, which sort of brought our request down quite sharply here, but then it again sort of recovered again and sort of just maintained a low response time and high request rate once we reached 1,000 users, showing the different hardware that you get with professional compared to starter and standard. However, with V9, it's a lot more tidier, with the sort of response time sort of being very stable and slowly sort of creeping up, and maybe another spike here, but then it just quickly recovers again. And it's the request may just sort of scales with the virtual users, and we have like a very low response time as well, 98 milliseconds as an average. If we have a look at the sort of all the results for V8 and V9 together in the professional tier, again we're sort of getting the same amount of requests made, 2 times more. Unfortunately in V8 we had 385 HTTP failures, but in V9 we only got 3. So yeah, if we sort of look at the peak response times, 2 times more, and our average response time was 12 times faster with V9 compared to V8. So our summary for this stress test: Umbraco 9 clearly wins. In all of our tests, Umbraco 9 had a low response time throughout, so we did these tests twice, and every single time Umbraco 9 clearly just outbeat Umbraco 8. We only saw the spikes in response time for V9, whereas V8 just grew with the visitor growth, as shown in the K6 graphs. And on average, V9's response time was 10 times better than V8. At €32, the starter plan is a great value for money, because during the actual test of starter, we were able to hit those 1 million requests for that duration of an hour. And it's sort of very generous that Umbraco Cloud sort of lets you reach that 1 million requests, whereas maybe other hosting, if you were on like a very cheap Azure plan, it wouldn't let you reach those million requests. So it's very generous of Cloud to sort of let you reach that 1 million requests, although not for very long, because you have a limit in Cloud. So once you hit that limit, I'm pretty sure those requests won't go through anymore. Cloud Features is also just a generous offering with the deploy and forms built into Starter. So those two together just sort of makes that €32 monthly price just very appealing, purely because of those cloud features you have. And Starter also just has support with cloud, so you can contact someone during business hours for any help with your cloud platform. One thing also is that database and media costs are included with cloud. During our Umbraco Together talk, we never talked about the SQL and storage costs. We only focused on the web app. So that €32 price plan just includes the media and storage costs. And Umbraco Cloud is a managed platform, so regardless of tier, Umbraco is handling those deployments, seamless content flow for you. So, and also have those multiple environments that you get with different tiers. So I know in professional you get, I think, 2 additional environments, and content flow is great for that, where you can just stream the content from the one to the next, and that's just all included with the price really. And it's also in standard. I mean not standard, sorry, in starter. And the upgrades are automated with Umbraco Cloud. So if ever there was a security advisory that came out, Umbraco Cloud's on the case to update your infrastructure and also update Umbraco if a new version comes up without you having to do anything. Thank you for joining me during this talk. If you have any other questions regarding this talk, you feel free to reach out to me on Twitter at Matthew07. And also, you can reach out to Moriama Umbraco as well with any questions that you may have. You can find my blog at me7.dev, and Moriama's site is moriama.co.uk. Again, thank you for listening. Hope you have a wonderful event.